Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Firefighters Chalkboard. This is Uncle Wayne. We are at episode number 60. And man, have I got something for you today. The other night I put a post up on Facebook and said, hey, I've been slacking. I hadn't done anything really podcast wise since we done all the Fools podcast between that and me finishing up some college stuff. And so now I've got a little more time, so I was going to get back at it. And I said, hey, I want y'all to let me know who do you want to see. And man, the names started pouring out. Thank you guys so much for that. I think I've got about 65 names right now, and I'm still getting more every day. But one of the first ones come up was this guy right here. And I'm not going to beat his last name up because I know I will. But Sam, I got Sam on here, and he was on a couple of months ago with us talking about their Fools chapter and stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Fools, a little bit about some stuff that's coming up, but we're going to talk a lot about Sam and see what kind of nuggets we can get from him today. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you, Uncle Wayne. I appreciate the opportunity to come sit down and talk with you today. Even though we're not physically together, we can at least be together and share ideas and talk about the fire service and how great it is. So,
Absolutely, man. So, for everybody that hasn't met Sam, tell us all about him.
so, I'm from Tickfall, Louisiana. It's a little small town in Louisiana, right outside the city of Hammond. It's about 600 residents. Uh, Married to my wife for 11 years, Jennifer. We have two little girls, Riley and Reese. Uh, Riley will be 12 come August, and Reese just turned 9 in April. So the biggest thing for me is the fire service is part of my life and a big part of my personality. I started my career in the fire service 17 years ago in 2009 as a volunteer. And it was one of those things. I was a college student looking for something to do in my free time and just kind of fell in love with it. So time goes on and things progress, and I wind up, getting an opportunity to become a career fireman with the department that I was volunteering with. Uh, I stayed with that department, volunteer full time and part time for about 11 years. Continued to work there, and then in 2013, I had the opportunity to get hired at the City of Hammond Fire Department, which is where I'm currently at. So, been able to do a lot of cool stuff in my career, meet a lot of cool people, uh, and the biggest thing for me that I think is a benefit of fire service that we often take for granted is, you know, everywhere I go and talk to people, regardless of the size of their department, if whether a career, volunteer, combination, whatever, everybody has a great appreciation for what we do. And we're always wanting to create an environment to where we facilitate fire-based conversations, network with one another, and share as much as we can, because everybody's got a lesson to teach, and everybody's got a story that they can share that can benefit uh, the fire service as a whole. So it's pretty cool. I'm currently serving as the chief of training. I've been in that position for I think about 3 years now. So I get to play a big part in our department's culture and a lot of the things that we're working on. Basically, take the fire chief and operations chief's vision on how they want the fire department to function, and develop training programs and drills and things like that, professional development to help us reach those benchmarks. So um, it's different. You know, I didn't get into the fire service because I wanted to have a 9 to 5 desk job, but it's funny that I find myself in that situation now. But I will say this about our staff chiefs in our department: we are firemen first, and that's kind of how our fire chief wants us to operate. So every opportunity we have to train with the guys, go out to emergency responses, getting our fire gear, we're looking for those opportunities because like I said, we're all firemen first, regardless of your rank position, what department you're with. We all have a common goal, and that's to provide the best service to the public as possible. So
I really like what you just said right there, and it goes thinking about a lot of things we do at work and things because I'll throw a thing out for Heath Meredith said a while back. If you got an air pack in the back of your buggy, you need to make sure you're putting it on a lot and able to do the job of a fireman at the same time because it's not there for you to stay in a pretty shirt and stand at a command post a lot of times. Don't get me wrong, there is times when you have to be at the command post and stuff, but I really like the fact that you said, we're still firemen, and we are. So, how much of a difference was it going from riding the rig, being on shift work, or doing stuff as a training guy, and then stepping into that chief role?
Yeah, so it's one of those things to where, I've always wanted to seek opportunities to better myself and make a bigger impact on not only my organization but the fire service as a whole. So I got the opportunity to go into the training division as the training officer pretty early in my career. Um, so there was a lot of things working against me. I didn't have a ton of experience. I would have liked to ride the truck for quite a bit longer, but it was one of those things to where, hey, the opportunity's here, the time is not perfect, so a decision has to be made. So it were some challenges, obviously. We didn't have a very strong training culture in our department prior to that, so I basically inherited a blank slate. And it took us a while to build that culture, which we're continuing to do of training and firemanship and stuff like that. But, I went into training 6 years ago to see where we were 6 years ago to today. I was talking to one of our district chiefs at the firehouse a couple of days ago about this, and he says, if you would have told us this is where our organization would be today based on what it was 6 years ago, we never believed that. And it all comes back to commitment and dedication and perseverance and working through the kinks. Not every idea you have is going to be great. Even sometimes great ideas, they don't come into fruition like you think they do. You say, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be something that we can do that's pretty easy. And people just don't respond to it the way you think they would. So it doesn't mean that was a bad idea, but it just means you have to work a little bit harder and re-engineer it to present it in a different manner to where people ultimately get that buy-in, which is going to drive your culture, right?
Like a lot of it's got to do with delivery. You can take
Sure.
the same class and the curriculum's the same, but you have three different people teach it. You're going to have three different methods of delivery. Some people grab some delivery different than others, so sometimes you have to look at it a different way, but never forget the mission. Keep always everything going towards the mission. So I really like the fact that you said, the culture, because truly culture does come a lot from the training aspect and the mindsets that we set out. So what kind of mentor programs you guys have? How do you look at your, mentoring your new people up into where you're grooming people to be officers?
Yeah, so I think every fire department, whether they admit it or not, has some form of mentorship program in their department. Sometimes that can be very informal to extremely formal. And there's benefits to informal programs. One of the things that I think we have working toward our benefit is our fire department is very young. So we're right about 80 members career, all full time. And the average age of a member of our fire department is like 27 and a half years old.
Wow.
So we have a lot of young, energetic firefighters. We have a lot of young, energetic officers. And that helps tremendously in mentoring members when they come into our fire department, because these guys want to get better. They want their companies to be more capable, and they want to build that reputation to where when a job comes out, they have a can-do attitude, and even if they're given a tough assignment, they have the ability and the confidence to go out and execute that. So we lean very heavily on the training program on our company officers. And when a new firefighter gets assigned, they get assigned to a company officer who is essentially responsible for mentoring them throughout their probationary period. So there's a high level of ownership. It's not just, hey, this guy's going to get plugged in. He's going to go wherever we need him today. That person's going to have a home. He's going to have an identity, and that's going to build a relationship between him and that company officer, because they're both trying to improve those skill sets, those mindsets together. And it's hard to do that when you take a new firefighter and you shop them around from station to station, and I understand staffing windfalls and things like that, but we try to avoid that as much as possible. That way that there's as much contact time with that officer who we deem is a good tactician, who's a good leader, and they're getting exposed to that person and those attributes as much as possible, especially early on in that probationary year. So,
Yeah, I like it. It's like, instead of shopping around for the probie, you're shopping around for that mentor to make sure you get the most bang for the buck and get everything. So that way that culture is instilled, that drive, that work ethic, the things you're really looking for.
yeah, and we try to make sure, like, we have 5 firehouses, and they're all different. Their run areas are different. But we try to stick these guys at busy firehouses. We want them to go to fire companies that are getting a lot of work, because we have to give that stimulus to these people and these young firefighters to keep them engaged. The worst thing for a young firefighter, and I myself have suffered this, is being at a slow firehouse with people who aren't super proactive and getting better, and that'll kill your enthusiasm and your momentum in a heartbeat. So, like I said, by design, we try to eliminate that and try to make this to where we're putting these folks in an environment to where they're going to constantly be stimulated to understand not only that you may learn skills in our academy, but what you lack is context, depth, and experience, and that's what we're trying to give you. We're trying to give you as much exposure to these runs, especially these, higher intensity, workload demanded runs as possible.
I like that. I was a while back. I actually play a YouTube video to some of my recruits and stuff, and it's Dr. Rick Rigsby. I've talked about him on here before, and he talks about the importance of gaining knowledge, but then blending it with wisdom in order to make something that's truly great. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. You're giving them all the knowledge you can give them while they're in the academy, and then you're seeking that wisdom to put them to, so they can start putting the two of them together to come up with a really great product. And and the product we want is the customer service for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And the strive for excellence, and something can always be better every time, and that's really great. And from what I hear and from what I've been stalking and stuff on, the chief of training is a sought after instructor as well, because he gets a lot of good feedback and a lot of good reviews. Because I was reading a comment about a class you had taught, and they said they had never heard somebody teach with the conviction and stuff and the passion that you deliver in. And they were like, I want to find every class this guy's teaching. So if you wouldn't mind, tell me a little bit about, teaching with that passion and that drive and everything, because I know as an instructor, it's hard to keep the students engaged when you're doing a lecture-based program. It truly is. So we have to be into the lecture to try to keep them into the lecture.
Sure. So one of the things that I've always tried to do, and like I said, I myself am no different than anybody else. We're all a work in progress. We're always trying new things, trying to fine-tune our delivery and figure out new ways to connect and resonate the message to the audience. But the one thing that I've always tried to do is be authentic, right? And that's a problem I think that a lot of instructors have, is there's a misconception that, you have to understand that if people are coming to hear you, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And, you have to try to remain as authentic as possible, because I find if you're not authentic, like if the stuff you're talking about isn't relevant to your experiences, you're not going to gain any interest from that audience. Um, you know, lectures are tough, and a lot of people uh, struggle with lectures because it's a comfortability thing, especially when you're speaking with people outside of your organization.
Hmm.
Um, so I've worked really hard on working on the lecture side of things. And to be honest with you, that's the skill set that I've tried to develop, for the most part over the last decade or so. So, you know, being authentic, you know, it's like a movie, right? You're putting on a production, you're putting on a show, right? So there has to be some action, there has to be some charisma, there has to be some ability to engage people. One of the things I like to do is incorporate humor, and the thing that I tell people all the time is, as a lecture instructor, your job is very similar to that as a stand-up comedian. You have a good piece of material, and you've worked really hard on it. You tried it out, and it might not land with this particular audience. So at the end of the day, if you have to have a personal commitment to your message and what you're trying to convey to people, and trust in your ability to convey that message. Because if you're given a presentation, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, the longer that is, the harder it is to keep people engaged.
Hmm.
And, what I've always tried to do with my presentations is there's going to be natural peaks and valleys, right? Where it's going to slow down, where the intensity is going to pick back up. So it's a lot of timing, you know, uh, knowing when to re-engage people and get their attention, throw a joke in, you know, um, things like that. And at the end of the day, I don't ever feel like I'm presenting to an audience. I'm not trying to deliver a product. What I'm trying to do is create an environment to where this group of people are all firefighters. Let's talk and let's discuss these topics as firefighters. How do we take this class and make people feel as comfortable as they would feel at the firehouse around a table or in the apparatus floor sitting on the bumper, right? So that's the biggest thing for me. I'm unapologetically me. That spills into how I present. Because firefighters are really good at sniffing out, people who are phony. Um, so that's the biggest thing for me, and my advice to instructors, whether they're new or they've been doing this a while, is just be you, man. You know, if people are asking you to come present, they're doing that for a reason. So we have to get away from this cookie cutter, politically correct, way of instruction, and just try to be more authentic in our delivery. And I think that's one of the things, because I know people enjoy, or I've heard people enjoy what I do, but I enjoy it just as much as everybody else does, because I don't have very many interests in life, aside from my family. You know, I tell people all the time, what I like to do in any setting is do fireman stuff with my fireman friends. And my instructional presentations is no different than that. And when you create that environment to where firefighters can do firefighter stuff with their firefighter friends, that's when you're going to capture that essence of engagement from that group of people you're speaking to.
Hmm. You get the buy-in right out the rip.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, it seems like a lot of times, and you said it earlier, conferences tend to go a little different, because with a conference, if you're lecturing at a conference or you're teaching skills at a conference or whatever, people have taken time off. A lot of times they've traveled a distance to get there. They've made arrangements, paid money out of their pocket, whatever, because they want to be there. They have made the effort to be there. So you're going to get a lot more them truly wanting to hear what you've got to say. Let's flip it over. What about the students that are sitting in the classroom because they were told they had to be there for that class, like a recruit academy? I know for me, I'm not doing it for a show, but I'm doing it because my job is dependent on me delivering this material to those people so they can be successful. So I struggle sometimes trying to make sure that delivery is hit right exactly where it needs to be, where the students benefit the best.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, as an instructor, especially when it's in a more structured environment, right? Because, like you said, at conferences, people are they're personally committed to being there. You know, typically they weren't forced to be there. There are some exceptions, but when it's more structured style training, whether it be certification classes or regular drills or company training, stuff like that, it becomes more of I have to do this, right? And to be completely honest with you, there's not a separation for me. It's not two separate products. The same way I present out on the conference circuit or when I go to other departments to present is the same way that I'm presenting inside the four walls of our department. The
Mm-hmm.
same passion, the same commitment, the same level of preparation, the same facilitation of engagement and discussion. So again, it's just creating that environment to where what I've tried to do over the last 6 years in training in my department and what I'll try to continue to do for however long I have left is try to shift the mentality of the student
There
from
you go.
this is something that we have to do to something that we get to do and we look forward to engaging in, right?
Yes. I like that because I teach the same way because I don't want to have, okay, this is my at work Wayne and this is conference Wayne. Is you get what you get. When I tested for the position, one of the outside people said, "Well, you're not selling yourself real well." I said, "I'm not going to." The whole rest of the panel has known me for 15 plus years. If I give them anything different than what they see normally on a daily basis, they know I'm full of crap. So I just go ahead and give them exactly what it is, and if they like it, they'll hire me. And so it's having that mindset to where we present it to where just exactly what you're talking about is trying to make that culture of what's in that classroom get hungry and want more, get them engaged, get them wanting to truly learn the stuff other than I got to sit here so we can check this box. We want them to soak up as much as they can out of it.
Yeah, and that starts with the instructor, because like I said, the mentality has to shift for the instructor too. There's not going to be days where you're 100% engaged and there's something that you have to do today that you really aren't passionate about. So you have to change your internal mentality to where I have to do this to I get to do this and how can I make this as realistic and as an engaging as possible to the student base. And you said it yourself, like that's a comment that I make to people all the time. Like, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to do that. What I'm here to do is to get you to engage your own thought processes, your own values, and make a choice. Make a choice in whether you feel like what you're being presented is something that piques your interest, something that you want to consider or maybe change some of your thought processes on things, or do you continue to adapt and go with the values that you already have set forth? The hardest thing as an instructor in the fire service is we have to understand that we are teaching the most difficult group of people to teach simply based on demographics.
Mm-hmm.
We are teaching adult learners. So these people are very fixed in their own personal values, how they feel about certain things. There's a higher level of emotional attachment to previous concepts or things that they've done in the past. And then it's funny, but when I'm teaching and outside our department, I have people from 18 years old
Mm-hmm.
to upwards of 60 years old.
Yep.
And that I have to ensure that both parties and everybody in between gets something out of what we're presenting. And you have to be very dynamic in your delivery because you have to meet people where they are.
Yes.
And that's what's hard in the fire service, right? And I get it. A lot of the values that we have historically in the fire department, like discipline, accountability, paramilitary style structure, that's great. But in order for me to engage you as an individual, I have to meet you on the same playing field or the same plane of where your thought processes are. So one of the things that we've done and what's made us a lot more successful in delivering inside our department is smaller groups.
Okay.
Right? So it's not an entire shift or an entire district at one time. It's one, maybe two companies at a time. So that lowers our student to instructor ratio. So where myself and our training officers have the ability to answer questions, have more one-on-one time with our members, and really engage them instead of just saying, hey, this is what we have to do today, check, because it's a chore, because that's what we've made it, and then, ship them out to go out in the world and be great. There has to be attention to detail, right? You have to answer those questions, because what you don't want to do is you don't want somebody to come in and be more confused or conflicted when they leave than when they came in.
And the smaller groups also give you a better chance for collaboration with that gap in age groups and stuff too. Because then that way, because that smaller group, you can have that open lines of communication between each other to talk about the differences where they get a good understanding from each other's age group or thought process and stuff. And it not be like you're somewhere with 100 people and then, okay, we're going to open the floor up to talk and then nothing gets accomplished.
100%. So it definitely stimulates the discussion and the interaction. And for the training officers that work with me, we have a list of expectations. And when you come into the training division, we go over that list of expectations and you sign it. And it's on the wall in all of our offices. So it says, this is our blueprint. These are the values that we hold. And everybody that's part of the training division has signed and said, I accept this. And it's things, little things like the last thing on that list is have fun. If we're not having fun, then what are we doing here, right? One of the things I put in there is when you ask a student a question, regardless of their answer, they're right. Because it's their mindset and it's real in their own reality. So if I say, Wayne, how do you feel like you did on that hose deployment? And you say, well, I think I did poorly. I think I could have improved here, whatever. You're right. So what we do is we come back on that and say, well, don't beat yourself up so bad on it because you did this well, you did this well, you did this well. We're here training. That's where we're going to improve on these things that you don't feel confident on. Or if they say, look, boss, I feel like I've knocked it out of the park, whatever. Again, they're right. And then again, we come back on the backside and say, but did you notice this or did you consider this, right? And it's treating people like human beings, right? Instead of machines, right? Because we are very complex biological beings. So the physical, mental, psychological aspects all come into that, and we have to account for that when we're training people. And at the end of the day, we try to create an environment to where, like I said, people can make mistakes without fear of being ridiculed.
Yeah.
But it's also the smaller groups are successful for us because there's not a big audience standing around waiting to roast you or watch you screw up, right? It's a smaller group, so it takes a lot of these reservations that people have about being vulnerable, and it makes them, do something a little bit different. Push a little harder without fear of, ridicule or whatever. So it's working pretty good for us. It's like I said, it's ever evolving. But that's the end of the day. Our message is this: when somebody comes to do training with us, whether it's for an hour or a week, right? We are going to do everything we can for the student. It's not about us.
Nope.
It's not about meeting our benchmarks. Obviously, we have objectives to meet. But look, if you have something planned for an hour and that's not enough time, you need to make the opportunity to make sure that that person understands that concept and has confidence in their ability to do that. Because if you screwed up throwing that 24-foot ladder by yourself in a training session, your confidence is wiped.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, what I say is, what happens in 15 minutes if that guy has to go out and do that on an actual fireground operation, and we've diminished all of that confidence? How do you think their execution is going to be? So one of the things on our list of expectations is we never end on a bad rep.
Yep. I got a buddy of mine that is a really successful retriever trainer. He trains tons of working dogs for people, and that's one thing he said that helps him a lot is if the dog messes up, if I'm done, I might throw the bird 10 feet from him. That way he finishes. When he finishes with a good mindset and a praise. And I'm not trying to relate firemen to dogs or whatever, but
Sure.
it's a learning process. When you end on a good note, you're ready to go do it again. If you get beaten to dirt, I don't want to go back out to the drill yard. What happened last time I was there?
Well, there's two metrics in which we need to measure firefighters' abilities and capabilities, and that's confidence and competence. And where we get in trouble as firefighters is to where those two categories are not on a level playing field, right? You can be overly confident, but have a low level of competence, and wherever that gap is, that's where problems can arise. And the opposite is true. You could have somebody who's very capable, very competent in their skill set, but they lack confidence. And again, that gap is where we find ourselves getting into trouble. So,
And I really like the fact that you said that, and it's something that I talk on sometimes when I'm teaching, is meeting the students where they are. And you're talking about at a conference, but a lot of times we have those 18-year-old kids right out of high school, and we've got the guys that are creeping up on 60 that are restarting after retiring from somewhere else and in a recruit class together. So, and you're talking about adult learners. That's something I study a lot and really intrigued by, because if I've got 30 students in a classroom that I'm fixing to run through a Fire One program, and I only teach my one way, I got a 50-50 shot on whether if they're going to pass or fail. But if I take the time for me to do a little bit of homework before I get started to see what their learning styles are, what their education background is, things like that, what makes them tick, and see what I need to do to adjust me to deliver to them better, I get a lot better of an income or return on the investment, because it's a lot easier for me to tweak me than it is for me to change the learning style of 30 different people.
there you go.
And I think that's something that needs to be brought up in the curriculum of Instructor One, because it talks about a learning adult learning a little bit and stuff, but the thing that is not talked about so much is us being able to tweak our delivery, because a lot of times when we're taking young people and training them to be instructors is the curriculum. Here's your lesson plans. Don't go past the lesson plans. But if you're a talking head reading a lesson plan, are you really going to deliver to the people? You've got to learn your students, just like you were saying.
Yes, sir.
So I love it. I love the fact that you got your instructors signing a piece of paper saying they're going to hold to the standard. I really like, because that way you get your instructors buy in on the mission instead of it being a job assignment. It's truly getting the mindset of those people out there that's going to be in the drill yard every day. That is my mission. I signed it. I'm I own that. I really love that. So let's talk about going further, because would you are with your local Fools chapter. You guys do a lot of extracurricular training and stuff. Doing fireman stuff with my fireman friends, and everybody's happy and all is good in the world. And let's talk. October's coming.
Yes, sir.
Small town, job town. So let's tell everybody about it.
Yeah. So this I think this is going to be our fourth conference that we've done. Um, and it's something that we really enjoy. Our team, our executive board, for the Fools chapter puts in a lot of work and dedication to make sure that we are delivering an experience that people feel good about. So, you know, it's typical of everything else. It's lecture presentations, it's hands-on. We always have a officer track to engage, chief and company level officers. But I think what kind of sets us apart and what we try to have a lot of pride in is that it's the overall experience of you coming out to our little corner of the world. Um, because, it's South Louisiana, so it's hospitality, right? And that's, if you need anything, you let us know, right? Um, so this is one of the things that we set out to do, in a world to where everybody's trying to create something, and conferences are more prevalent than they've ever been.
Hmm.
But we know who we are, and we know what our identity should be, and what we want to deliver. So it's exactly what it says in the name. It's small town, job town, right? We have no aspirations of making this a huge event. We cap the number of people that come to our conference. And that's for a reason, because we don't want to lose that small conference environment, right? Again, if you go to a conference with, thousands, hundreds or thousands of people, that one-on-one connection and that networking may not be there. You don't have as much access to the instructors because, they're trying to work around several hundreds or thousand students. So I think what we're doing is we feel pretty good about. We're trying to bring in people not simply based on their resume, but bring in people who are going to make an impact.
Yeah.
And what's been great for us is we brought in instructors who have sometimes the first time they've ever presented was at our conference, right? And what's crazy is, because you try to build the marquee, right? You need some big names in there to attract people and get that draw. But when I hear a student say this person who nobody's ever heard of was the best presentation or the one that resonated with me the most, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're just simply here trying to connect people and give people opportunities to, be successful as instructors. So this year we're going to keep with that theme. We're going to bring in a couple more local people from the region and give them some opportunities. Along with, like you said, some of the bigger names that people are looking forward to. So we're excited about it. We're committed to delivering the best experience possible to our student base. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be this October again. I believe the 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Hmm.
And Hammond's a pretty cool place. People tend to enjoy their experience when they come down there. So yeah, we're just gonna keep pressing on. And I've told people all the time, whether we've got, and this is our Fools training events, our conference, whatever. Whether there's 4 people there, 40, or 100, we're going to have the same level of commitment to whoever shows up and try to have you leave having enjoyed your time and not feel like it was in vain.
Well, just like you say, you're chasing that impact on individuals. You want to help do your part to help make people's learning experience better.
Yeah. And what's great is it's inspired so many people to go out back to their, corner of the world and, rejuvenate their passion and desire and spread, the message and the values of the job to their organization or their area. So, you know, this as well as I do. You're only going to be able to reach so many people as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can instill that passion, that confidence, and set that example for other people, then what truly is your reach, right? It might not be direct from you to that other person, but whatever you instilled in the people you came in contact with, that's going to travel and that's going to impact a much larger audience than you originally intended.
Yeah. Compounded interest by students.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Yeah, we want that ripple effect. Because that little thing we do today might make a big difference in 100 people, and we never realize it. And it's not about us realizing it, it's just taking that opportunity to make one person better. That one person might have an impact in 100. We might never be the big name person, but we might inspire the next one that is.
Yeah, and look, in a world where, a lot of type A personalities are in the fire service and everybody wants to be great, and I have no objections to that, but, in a world where everybody wants to be Michael Jordan, you have to understand that you might not be Michael Jordan, but your investment with someone could inspire someone else to be great.
Yes.
Right? So instead of chasing individual notoriety or achievement, if you keep, committed to what you're doing and continue to have good interactions with people, what you're doing is you're taking somebody who may have just needed that opportunity, that inspiration, putting them in an environment to where they're exposed to that, and that guy might be the next Michael Jordan in the fire service, right?
That's it. That is it. That's what it's all about. Because I'm not far from retirement.
Yes, sir.
I hope I'm a lot closer than I think I am. I just hope. But I look at it to the aspect of when I do retire, that gives me more time to try to make more of an impact, to try to reach out and see more people, meet more people, I love what you guys are doing. I love the fact that you say we're not going to go bigger. Now, don't get me wrong. I love going to big conferences. They are fun because you just get to see so many things and so many people. But those small, intimate ones are really special. They
Yes,
are.
yes.
Because if you go to a big conference, you're exposed to so much, and it's a really good thing because you got so much of a variety about what you can learn, who you can be around, and stuff. But there's something about sitting in a class with a guy, listening to a lecture, and then going and having dinner with him because you were in that little small group, and then it gives you more of a, like you say, that one-on-one, and then your instructors might be sitting there at the bar having dinner with you too, and you can dig deeper into what was going on in the lecture, or hopefully we can have us a crab boil or something where we can all just sit around a table and talk about some stuff. But
That's right.
I'm super excited for this conference. I mean, October is going to be a really big month. I'm going to Wichita and get to go do that, and then turn around and coming right to Louisiana, getting to hang out with you guys on my birthday. I can't wait. I'm super excited about it. But I'm glad I've got a chance to present, but I'm more glad to be able to sit around and listen to people from the other side of the country talk about a job they love so much, and be able to try to share information with them.
Yeah, and inspiration comes in many forms. There are giants in the fire service, right? There are legends on this job, and it's one of the things that I noticed as a student that inspired me as an instructor. Um, I watched Captain Bill Guston sit in a class, and he's presenting at a conference, right? And he's sitting in sessions on the front row with a notebook, taking notes. And what level of commitment is that for an instructor who's truly trying to constantly improve their craft and abilities? And that was very inspiring to me. You know, we tend to stay inside of our comfort zones and only stick to the things that we have a high level of confidence in. Um, but for me to watch a guy like Bill Guston, who I held and a lot of the fire service held in such a high regard, sit there and be engaged and take notes, that sent a big message to me and everybody else who has aspirations to instruct or is currently doing it.
And you're 100%
None of us
right.
are perfect,
100% right, because that is setting the standard on always being a student and what we should strive to be. It
Yeah.
truly is. And I love the fact that you brought that up, because the drawing that Paul Combs done after Captain Guston passed, with his notepad and his glasses and the note on it, always be a student, always keep learning. I've actually got as my screensaver on my laptop as a reminder to, that was the standard that was set, and the one we should need to follow. We should always try, anytime we get a chance, to sit in and listen to somebody, because just like you say, if it's that very first time that person's presenting something ever, you'd be surprised at the way they present whatever that material is. Might be something you can take from it and learn from it.
Absolutely.
Everybody can learn from everybody. So, is there anything that you want to throw out for your chapter, small town, coming up? That way, if people are wanting to sign up for it, find out information about it, whatever. Because have you guys opened registration yet?
Yes, sir. Registration is open for the conference. So you can go to our Facebook page on our Fools, Small Town Fools Facebook page, and there's a link to the registration page for the conference.
Okay.
And all the details are in there, hotels, who's presenting, what days, what times, all of that stuff. And we're going to continue to push more of that stuff out with little quick hits on our social media as we get closer to the event. But on top of that, we host a quarterly training, open training for our Fools chapter. So far this year, we've done forcible entry free-for-all. So, we broke as many doors as people wanted to broke, cut as many locks, rebar, garage, whatever you wanted to do. We basically went until nobody wanted to anymore. The most recent one we did was Ladders Matter. So, high intensity, realistic ladder operations. Because, learning from other instructors, and trying to get out of this cookie cutter way in which we instruct things. Brad Bennett from South Carolina brought this to my attention. When was the last time you carried a 24-foot ladder over distance? 50, 100, 150 yards. That changes things. So those were some of the things that we tried to incorporate in that training, making it realistic to where we're not just going to grab a ladder, go 10 feet and put it up and then go conquer the world. So just making stuff more realistic, and people seem to really enjoy when we do stuff like that. The next one we have coming up in August, I believe on the 22nd, is we're doing a tactics on tap. So we're going to go to a little local brewery in our area, and one of our Fools members actually was involved in a Mayday, and he's put together a little presentation to share his story and his experience on that. So, we're going to sit down over a couple of beers, fellowship, socialize, and then Axel's going to present his Mayday presentation for us. So And that's going to make a lot of sense in August when it's 103 degrees and 98% humidity down here. So,
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, not
and then
quite as bad as it is for you guys, but it's a little steamy up here too.
yeah, and then to finish the year off after the conference in December, we're going to do what we call our hard to kill survival school. So all survival based skills. Again, trying to make stuff realistic, trying to make it challenging, and again, just trying to open people's mind and perception to creating training environments with a high level of stress instead of making them easy and then not truly conveying how time sensitive things are, what your true capabilities are when it comes to self rescue and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Sounds like a heck of a calendar, Chief. I mean, it does. You guys have got it planned out. You've obviously done a ton of work, a huge thought process on what you're trying to deliver. I can't wait. I know it's going to be something awesome. Um, I'm ready. I'm ready to go now.
Yes, sir.
I just want to get a little bit cooler first.
Yeah, you're right.
But so I can't think of a whole lot better way to wrap it up. We've covered a lot of good stuff, and so I'm gonna give you the chalkboard, let you put your message on it, leave some really good nuggets for everybody, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Yes, sir. So I'll close with this. The job doesn't suck, okay? Someone convinced you that this job sucks. You did not come into this profession, whatever capacity you're in, thinking that this was a bad job. Someone impressed that upon you, someone who probably had a little bit of influence on you and convinced you that this job sucks. Is the job difficult? Yes. Are there a lot more factors in our line of work that a lot of people don't deal with in other professions? Absolutely. But when you got the opportunity to be a firefighter, career volunteer, whatever it is, you hit the lottery, okay? You are going to gain skills that are not only going to help you in public service, but they are going to make you a better person. What we have to bring back in the fire service is compassion for ourselves, for the people we work with, and the public that we serve. So my advice to everyone is, if you find yourself in a funk, right? Go back and think about why you chose to do this in the first place. Have that first day mindset, right? How excited were you to get the opportunity to be a firefighter and make a difference in other people's lives? And that's something that you should carry with you every day when you come to the fire station. We have to create an environment to where we want to see people win. We have to take the comparison and the competition out of the fire service. Competition is great because it breeds excellence, but we can take that too far by turning competition into comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to everybody is there are no sides. There are no separate teams. The fire service as a whole, your department, is one cohesive unit. We all have to work together in order to be successful. We have to set aside our personal feelings, our differences, our reservations, and put ourselves back into a mindset to where we are not here to serve ourselves. We are here to serve a greater mission. And if we keep that in our head and that drives all of our actions, then we will always be successful as firefighters, regardless of what circumstances we find ourselves in.
Man, I love that. I love that a lot. I actually took a note down on what time it is. If And you're exactly right. If we can just remember how we felt that first day and keep that feeling every day, it'll be okay.
Yes, sir.
I like it. Everybody, Sam, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate everybody listening. Um, Small Town Job Town, October 15th, 16th, and 17th. Come have some birthday cake with me. I don't know where we'll find one, but we will find one there. I promise you.
Absolutely.
Nobody's getting any licks, though. I'll go ahead and say that. Uh,
Okay.
by Uncle Wayne a beer day, October 16th.
There you go.
But thank you so much for coming on, Sam. I greatly appreciate it. Tons of knowledge, tons of nuggets thrown out. Everybody, find this guy. Come take classes from this guy. He is an amazing instructor. He is super passionate about what he does, and he truly believes in the work he's doing. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, keep learning, and we'll see you when the next guy steps up to the chalkboard.